Canada will respond to the U.S. auto tariffs. And today I'm announcing that the Government of Canada will be responding with 25% tariffs on all vehicles imported from the United States.
Canada has just taken its most decisive step yet in the North American Auto Showdown. And this time, there's no way to miss the message. Ottawa has begun withdrawing from key U.S. auto cooperation frameworks, shifting from automatic alignment to deliberate independence. For decades, Washington assumed Canada would always move in sync. Instead, it woke up to a clean, confident break. And tonight, the damage to the U.S. auto sector isn't coming from a new tariff. It's coming from something far more serious: Canada refusing to play by the old script. For months, Canadian unions have been warning that Donald Trump's second-term agenda is not just careless, it's targeted. They say his goal is nothing less than the surgical dismantling of Canada's auto industry, and the evidence has been piling up. Since early 2025, Trump's revived America First push has rewritten the cross-border rules. Auto imports from Canada were hit with 25% duties, accompanied by public threats to hike them to 35% if Ottawa didn't fall back in line. These measures were packaged as a shield against China. In reality, the first and worst impact landed north of the border, in one of the most integrated auto ecosystems on the planet. Stellantis responded by halting production in Ontario and shifting it to Illinois, taking thousands of Canadian jobs with it. GM started scaling down at plants in Ontario as EV demand softened and U.S. policy turned erratic. At the same time, the U.S. offered no predictability, no clear endgame, no pause to assess the fallout, just escalating pressure. Canada responded with its own 25% counter-tariffs, but it still granted temporary exemptions for Stellantis and GM. Those exemptions came with strings attached: investment, local production, and concrete commitments on Canadian soil. Over the summer and fall, Prime Minister Mark Carney's government did something Washington wasn't expecting. It stopped absorbing the blows and began rewriting the rules. Ottawa cut back tariff-free quotas for American automakers. It launched formal complaints over plant closures and linked every future privilege to real domestic investment. But this week's move goes beyond bargaining tactics. Canada is stepping away from the old mental map altogether. Cooperative auto frameworks are being suspended, new sector agreements frozen. In their place, Ottawa is rolling out a wholly Canadian industrial strategy built around security, independence, and reliability. For 30 years, the auto sector behaved like one organism that happened to straddle a border. An SUV assembled in Michigan could carry an engine cast in Windsor and electronics from Quebec. Politicians argued about sovereignty. Factories quietly ignored it. That system rested on trust, the assumption that whatever political drama played out, the underlying rules would remain fair and predictable. Trump's tariff regime shattered that assumption. Canadian-built components stopped counting as North American value and were suddenly treated as foreign risk. Even U.S. analysts called it economic friendly fire, a policy aimed at Beijing that ended up hitting Ottawa first. And while this structural shift was unfolding, another front opened in public opinion. Trump slapped an extra 10% tariff on Canada after a blunt anti-tariff ad funded by Ontario aired on U.S. networks and went viral. It was meant as punishment. Ontario Premier Doug Ford didn't flinch. He called the spot one of the most effective campaigns in North American history and refused to apologize.
I will fight like I've never fought before, and we're going to continue fighting against President Trump and his radical views.
Instead of backing down, he spoke directly to American viewers, reminding them that tariffs on Canada are, in practice, taxes on themselves. Ford pointed to the numbers. Over recent months, U.S. manufacturing employment has been sliding, while inflation has pushed past 4%. Those were the very indicators Trump once promised to improve. By borrowing lines Ronald Reagan used in the 1980s to warn against protectionism, Ford turned a provincial ad into a referendum on Trump's economic logic. The more the White House raged, the more oxygen the campaign received. A message meant for a World Series audience echoed endlessly across cable news, front pages, and social feeds. Inside the United States, the backlash